It was just after midnight when my car's headlights caught the faded green of a road sign, "Welcome to Harrowvale, Pop 1247. The letters were chipped, barely legible, as if the sign had been standing there, forgotten, for decades. I was bone-tired, my eyes stinging from hours of driving through the endless stretch of rural highways. The idea of a small town with a motel, maybe a diner, felt like a lifeline. But something about that sign made my stomach twist, a flicker of unease I couldn't place. Why hadn't I ever heard of Harrowvale? I'd been up and down this route before, hadn't I? I'm Ellie, 25, a freelance photographer who spends more time in her beat-up Subaru than in her actual apartment. I was on my way back from a gig in a neighboring state, chasing the kind of backroad scenery that looks good on Instagram but leaves you stranded with no cell service. My phone had been dead for hours, the GPS useless, and the map in my glove box was so old it was practically a relic. When I saw the sign for Harrowvale, I figured it was my best shot at a bed for the night. I didn't think twice about turning onto the narrow road that branched off the highway. That was my first mistake. The road into Harrowvale was eerily quiet, lined with dense pines that seemed to swallow the moonlight. No other cars, no streetlights, just the hum of my engine and the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. After about 10 minutes, the trees parted, and there it was, a small town, nestled in a valley like it had been dropped there by accident. The main street was lined with old-fashioned storefronts, think 1950s Americana, but worn, like a movie set left to rot. A pharmacy with a flickering neon sign, a diner with a single bulb glowing over the door, and a motel at the far end, its vacancy sign buzzing faintly. It looked off, but I chalked it up to exhaustion. Small towns can feel like ghost towns at night, right? I pulled into the motel's gravel lot, the crunch under my tires louder than it should have been. The office was a small, dimly lit room with peeling wallpaper and a bell on the counter. I rang it, and after what felt like forever, a woman appeared from the back. She was older, maybe in her 60s, with a face that looked like it had seen too many winters. Her smile was thin, almost forced, and her eyes didn't quite meet mine. "Room for one?" she asked, her voice soft but oddly flat. "Yeah, just for the night," I said, trying to sound cheerful despite the creeping unease. She handed me a key, actual metal, not a card, and pointed me to room 12. No paperwork, no ID check, just a nod and a sleep well. I noticed her hands were trembling slightly as she pushed the key across the counter. I didn't ask why. I wish I had. Room 12 was what you'd expect, a sagging bed, a TV that probably hadn't worked since the 90s, and a faint smell of mildew. But it was clean enough, and I was too tired to care. I locked the door, dropped my bag, and collapsed onto the bed, staring at the cracked ceiling. That's when I heard it, a low, rhythmic hum, like someone chanting far away. It was faint, coming from outside, maybe from the woods beyond the motel. I sat up, straining to listen. It wasn't music, not exactly, but it had a cadence, a pattern that made my skin prickle. I told myself it was just the wind or maybe a generator, but it didn't stop. I got up and peeked through the curtains. The parking lot was empty, my car the only one there. The neon vacancy sign flickered, casting a red glow across the gravel. Beyond that, the town was dark, save for the diner's lone bulb. But the hum, it was still there, steady, like a heartbeat. I tried to ignore it, turned on the TV for noise, but all I got was static. No channels, just white noise. I switched it off, and the hum seemed louder, closer. It wasn't coming from the woods anymore, it felt like it was right outside my window. I don't know why I didn't leave then. Maybe it was the exhaustion, or maybe it was something else, something I couldn't name. But I stayed, lying back down, pulling the thin blanket over me. The hum faded eventually, or I got used to it, and I drifted into a restless sleep. I dreamed of a town square, empty except for shadows moving in the corners of my vision. Shadows that didn't have people attached to them. The next morning, I woke to silence. No hum, no birds, nothing. The sunlight filtering through the curtains was gray, like the sky was holding its breath. I packed quickly, eager to get out, but when I stepped outside, the air felt heavy, like it was pressing down on me. The motel office was empty, the bell on the counter silent no matter how many times I rang it. My car was still there, untouched, but the gravel lot looked different. The lines for my tires were gone, like I hadn't driven in at all. I walked down Harrowvale's main street, looking for the diner. I needed coffee, food, something to ground me. The street was deserted, no cars, no people, just the faint creak of a sign swaying in the breeze. The diner's door was unlocked, but the inside was dark, the tables covered in a thin layer of dust. I called out, "Hello?" My voice echoed, unanswered. That's when I noticed the calendar on the wall, yellowed, stuck on June 1973. 50 years ago. My heart started pounding. I backed out of the diner, my eyes scanning the street. Every storefront looked the same, abandoned, frozen in time. The pharmacy's windows were clouded with grime, but I could make out shelves inside, stocked with bottles that looked untouched. The barber shop had a pole that wasn't spinning, its red and white stripes faded to pink and gray. And the air, it was too still, too quiet, like the whole town was holding its breath. I ran back to the motel, my footsteps unnaturally loud in the silence. I needed to get out, to drive away and never look back. But when I reached my car, the key wouldn't turn in the ignition. The engine sputtered, then died. I tried again, and again, my hands shaking. Nothing. That's when I saw it in the rearview mirror, a figure standing at the edge of the parking lot, just watching. It was the woman from the motel office, her face blank, her eyes fixed on me. She didn't move, didn't blink. Just stood there. I don't know how long I sat there, staring back at her through the mirror. My phone was still dead, no signal, no way to call for help. The woman didn't approach, but she didn't leave either. And then, faintly, the hum started again, low and steady, coming from everywhere and nowhere. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white, and whispered to myself, "This isn't real. It can't be real." But it felt real. Too real. The hum was louder now, vibrating in my chest like a warning. I sat frozen in my car, staring at the woman from the motel office through the rearview mirror. She hadn't moved, her silhouette stark against the gray morning light, her eyes locked on me. I don't know what scared me more, her stillness or the fact that the hum seemed to pulse in time with my heartbeat. I fumbled with the car key again, praying for the engine to turn over, but it was dead, like the town itself had drained it. I had to get out of Harrowvale, but the thought of stepping out of the car, of walking past her, made my skin crawl. I'm Ellie, and I'm not the kind of person who panics easily. I've camped alone in the middle of nowhere, dealt with creepy clients at photo shoots, even talked my way out of a sketchy gas station at 2 a.m. But this? This was different. Harrowvale wasn't just quiet, it was wrong. The air felt thick, like it was clinging to me, and every sound, my breathing, the creak of the car seat, felt amplified, like the town was listening. I took a deep breath, grabbed my phone, still dead, and slung my camera bag over my shoulder. I wasn't staying in that car, not with her watching. I opened the door, the hinges groaning, and stepped onto the gravel. The crunch under my boots was deafening. The woman didn't move, but her head tilted slightly, like she was studying me. I avoided her gaze, focusing on the road ahead. My plan was simple: walk back to the highway, flag down a car, get the hell out. But as I started down the main street, the hum grew louder, more distinct. It wasn't just a sound anymore, it had words, or fragments of them, whispered in a language I couldn't understand. It was coming from the buildings, the ground, the air itself. The main street stretched out, longer than it had seemed last night. The storefronts looked even more decayed in the daylight, their windows smeared with grime that made it hard to see inside. I passed the diner again, its door still ajar, and caught a glimpse of something moving inside, a shadow, quick and fleeting, like someone had ducked out of sight. My heart skipped. "Hello?" I called, my voice shaky. No answer, just the hum, relentless now, weaving through the silence like a thread. I kept walking, faster now, my camera bag bouncing against my hip. I don't know why I brought it, habit, maybe, or some stupid instinct to document whatever this was. The street curved slightly, and I realized I was heading toward a town square I hadn't seen last night. It was small, surrounded by more faded buildings, a library, a post office, a church with a steeple that leaned slightly to the left. In the center was a statue, weathered and moss-covered, of a man in a coat, his face eroded to a blank oval. The plaque at its base was illegible, the letters worn away. I stopped, staring at it, because for a moment, I swore the statue's head turned toward me. I blinked, and it was still again. Just a trick of the light, I told myself, but my hands were shaking as I pulled out my camera. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I thought taking a picture would make it feel less real, like I could trap it in a frame and leave it behind. I snapped a shot, the shutters clicked unnaturally loud. When I checked the display, the statue was there, but the background, the buildings looked different, sharper, like they'd been restored. The library's windows were clean, the church's steeple straight. I flipped back to the previous photo I'd taken, a landscape from yesterday, and it was fine. But the statue photo? It was like I'd captured a different town. I lowered the camera, my mouth dry. The hum was louder now, the whispers clearer, though still incomprehensible. I turned, half expecting the woman from the motel to be behind me, but the square was empty. No, not empty, there were shadows, faint and flickering, at the edges of my vision. Not people, not exactly, but shapes, like heat waves on a hot road. They moved when I didn't look directly at them, darting between buildings, slipping into alleys. I spun around, trying to catch one, but they were gone the moment I focused. I was losing it. I had to be. I shoved the camera back in my bag and started walking again, faster, toward the road out of town. But the street seemed to stretch, the buildings repeating themselves, pharmacy, diner, barbershop, pharmacy again. I stopped, my breath hitching. I'd passed the same block twice. No, 3 times. The signs were identical, down to the chipped paint and faded letters. I turned back, thinking I'd retrace my steps, but the town square was gone. Just more storefronts, more empty windows. Panic clawed at my chest. I ran now, my boots pounding the pavement, the hum chasing me, growing into a chorus of whispers that seemed to know my name. Ellie. Ellie. I didn't stop to look, didn't dare. I ran until my lungs burned, until the road finally opened up to the pine-lined path I'd driven in on. But when I reached the spot where the highway should have been, there was nothing, just more trees, more road, curving back toward Harrowvale. I collapsed to my knees, gasping. The hum was everywhere now, vibrating in my bones. I fumbled for my phone again, desperate, but the screen was still black. That's when I noticed my camera, still in my bag, its power light blinking. I hadn't turned it on. Hands trembling, I pulled it out and checked the display. The photo of the statue was still there, but now there was a figure standing beside it, a woman, her face blurred, her posture stiff, like she'd been caught mid-step. It was the woman from the motel. I dropped the camera, scrambling back. It hit the ground, the lens cracking, but the display stayed on, the image flickering. The woman's face was clearer now, her eyes black, her mouth open in a silent scream. I stumbled to my feet, backing away, and that's when I heard footsteps behind me. Slow, deliberate, crunching on the gravel. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. But I felt her presence, cold and heavy, like a hand on my shoulder. The hum stopped abruptly, replaced by a single, clear whisper, "You shouldn't be here." I ran again, back toward the town, because there was nowhere else to go. The road looped, the trees closing in, and soon I was back on the main street, the same damn street, with the diner and the pharmacy and the barber shop. My car was still at the motel, but I didn't go back for it. I couldn't face her again. Instead, I ducked into the library, the only building with an open door. Inside, it was dark, the air thick with the smell of old books and something sharper, like rust. The shelves stretched endlessly, the books untouched, their spines blank. I hid behind a shelf, my heart pounding, listening for those footsteps. They didn't come, but the hum started again, softer now, like it was waiting. I don't know how long I stayed there, crouched in the dark, but when I finally peeked out, the windows showed night falling, though it couldn't have been more than an hour since I'd left the motel. Time didn't make sense here. Nothing did. And then I saw it, a book on the floor, open, its pages blank except for one word, written in red ink, Ellie. The word Ellie stared up at me from the page, written in red ink that looked wet, like it had been scrawled moments ago. My name, in a book, in a library in a town that shouldn't exist. My breath caught in my throat, and for a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't think. The hum was back, low and insistent, seeping through the walls of the library, wrapping around me like a noose. I slammed the book shut, the sound echoing in the silent room, and backed away, my boots scuffing the dusty floor. I had to get out of Harrowvale, but every step I'd taken so far had only pulled me deeper into this place. I'm Ellie, and I've always trusted my instincts. They've kept me safe on solo road trips, guided me through dark trails with nothing but a flashlight. But here, in this town, my instincts were screaming, and I didn't know what to do with them. The library was a maze of shelves, the air heavy with that rust-like smell that made my stomach turn. I clutched my camera bag, the weight of it grounding me, even though the camera itself was still on the ground outside, its cracked lens showing that impossible photo of the woman. I didn't dare go back for it. I moved toward the library's entrance, my eyes darting to every shadow. The window showed a night sky now, starless and oppressive, though it felt like only minutes had passed since I ducked inside. Time was slipping, bending, like the town was playing with it. I pushed the door open, expecting to see the main street, but instead, I stepped into the town square, the one with the statue, the one I'd sworn was blocks away. The door behind me clicked shut, and when I turned, the library was gone. Just another storefront, its windows dark and empty. The statue loomed in the center of the square, its blank face seeming to watch me. The hum was louder here, the whispers clearer, though still in that strange, half-formed language. Ellie, stay. I shook my head, trying to block it out, but it was inside me now, vibrating in my skull. I turned in a circle, looking for the road out, but every direction led to more buildings, more of Harrowvale's endless loop. The pharmacy, the diner, the barber shop, they were all there, mocking me with their sameness. That's when I saw the church. Its door was ajar, a faint light spilling out, warm and inviting in a way nothing else in this town had been. I didn't want to go in, every part of me screamed to keep moving, to find the highway, but my legs were heavy, my body exhausted. The light felt like a promise, a trap I couldn't resist. I crossed the square, the statue's eyeless gaze following me, and slipped inside. The church was small, its pews worn but polished, the air thick with the smell of wax and something sweeter, like rotting flowers. A single candle burned on the altar, its flame steady despite the draft. I sat in the back pew, my hands shaking, trying to think. My phone was still dead, my car useless, and every road led back here. I was trapped, and the hum was telling me I belonged here, that I was meant to be here. I pressed my hands to my ears, but it didn't help, the sound was inside me. I don't know how long I sat there before I noticed the photographs. They were tucked into the hymnals, one in each book, black and white images of people. Men, women, children, all staring directly at the camera, their expressions blank. I flipped through one, then another, my heart pounding. The photos were old, the edges yellowed, but the faces, they were too clear, too sharp, like they'd been taken yesterday. And then I found it, a photo of me. Not a recent one, not from my camera, but me, standing in front of the statue in the square, my face as blank as the others. I dropped the hymnal, the photo fluttering to the floor. The hum surged, the whispers forming words I could almost understand. You're home. You're one of us. I stumbled to my feet, knocking over the pew, and ran for the altar, as if it could protect me. The candle flickered, casting shadows that moved like people, their shapes stretching across the walls. I turned, and there she was, the woman from the motel, standing in the aisle, her face no longer blurred. Her eyes were black, her mouth a thin line, and she was holding my camera. You left this, she said, her voice soft but wrong, like it was coming from somewhere else. She held out the camera, and I backed away, hitting the altar. The candle fell, wax spilling across the wood, but the flame didn't go out. It grew, impossibly bright, and in its light, I saw them, dozens of figures, standing in the pews, their faces matching the photos. They didn't move, didn't speak, just watched me, their eyes empty but knowing. I screamed, or I tried to, but the sound was swallowed by the hum. The woman stepped closer, her trembling hand steady now, and placed the camera at my feet. "Look," she whispered. I didn't want to, but my hands moved on their own, picking it up. The display was still on, showing a new photo, one I hadn't taken. It was me, sitting in the pew, holding the hymnal, my face blank, my eyes black. I threw the camera down, the screen shattering, and ran for the door. The figures didn't follow, but their presence pressed against me, heavy and cold. The door opened not to the square but to the motel parking lot, my car still there, the vacancy sign flickering. I didn't question it, I ran to the car, yanked the door open, and turned the key. The engine roared to life, and I floored it, the tires spitting gravel as I sped toward the road. The pines blurred past, the hum fading, and then, finally, the highway. I didn't stop, didn't look back, just drove until the sun rose, until I saw a gas station, real and solid, with people and noise and life. I pulled over, sobbing, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the steering wheel. My phone powered on, the screen showing missed calls, texts, a normal world. But when I checked my camera bag, the memory card was gone. So was the photo of the statue, the woman, all of it. I tried to find Harrowvale later, on maps, online, anywhere. Nothing. No record of it, no mention, like it never existed. But I know it was real. I can still hear the hum sometimes, late at night, when the world is quiet. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I see the square, the statue, the faces in the church. I don't take that route anymore. I don't trust backroads. But I keep my camera close, just in case. Because I think Harrowvale isn't done with me.